Welcome back, everybody. You're still keeping it locked right here on your Feel Good Breakfast Show. Now, the 20th of May has been designated World Bee Day by the United Nations to raise awareness of the importance of bees. Now, bees have been around for thousands of years, but are apparently in danger of extinction. Commercial bee farmer Brendan Ashley Cooper, who's also a part of the Western Cape Bee Industry Association, is connecting with us right now to tell us a bit more about this. A very good morning to you, Brendan.
Good morning, Ryle, Jamie. Thanks very much for having me on your show, and happy World Bee Day from a very wet, cold Cape Town. I think this rain is fantastic for all the wheat and canola farmers and all the other sectors of agriculture that need this rain, so we really appreciate this rain.
Yeah, we're celebrating it, man, and celebrating people like you doing so much good with their energy and their legacy. So we're talking about bees, we're talking about the fact that you are heading up the bee industry and the association, but there's a concern, of course, and let's get straight into it. Bees are being endangered, and the question is why and how come?
I think the world has changed a lot over the last 100 years. In agriculture, we're using a lot more chemicals to get the quality and quantity of fruit. There are a lot of other stressors also that affect the bees, like diseases and lack of good forage. And these all put pressure on very sensitive insects.
Britt, I don't know if I told you guys this, but I told you this earlier. Expresso actually has its own beehive just outside of the studio. And I think I want us to stress this a bit more. What is the importance of bees in nature overall? And also, why is it so important to preserve them?
So we always look at bees and we think honey, 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 honey bees. But bees are actually on this planet as pollinators. They're a very integral part of our ecosystem, visiting from one flower to the next and taking pollen from one flower to the next to enable that flower to produce seeds for continuity of those species. So their role on the planet is as pollinators, but even more important, as the global population is expanding so exponentially, there's a huge demand for food now, and food security. Bees have a really important part to play in pollinating fruit trees and vegetables and many of the beautiful foods that we eat.
Now, I love the fact that we're obviously talking about maybe reduction of the consumption of honey might assist this problem. We had a chat with Grant Hines, our techie, about this earlier as well. But when it comes to actually becoming a beekeeper, because like you said, we always associated beekeepers with honey, what is the actual importance in the economy and the economic system when it comes to beekeeping? What is the positivity of that actual process?
Well, for us to assist the farmers, we need to move beehives into fruit farms. We need to prepare beehives and make sure that the bees are strong enough to be able to perform their pollination duties. So they have such an important role in pollinating all the different crops that we eat. And the beekeeper needs to facilitate that and to assist the bees by moving the beehives, by preparing them, making sure the bees are healthy, that we're not spreading diseases, making sure they have enough food, and keeping the colonies strong from year to year so that they're able to do their duties in the spring or whatever time of the year the target crop is.
Well, lots of bees facts coming through. We're going to continue this conversation, so stay tuned for more bee talk here on your Feel Good Breakfast Show.
It's my Feel Good Breakfast Show.
It's World Bee Days here on your Feel Good Breakfast Show, and earlier on we spoke to commercial bee farmer Brendan Ashley Cooper about the importance of bee conservation and how people can help preserve our bees. And we are, of course, continuing the conversation right now to commemorate World Bee Day. So thank you so much for staying with us this morning.
Are you still there? Yes? No?
Yes, I'm
Oh,
here.
you're still there. Sorry. The rain is so crazy in the studio. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's so hard to tell if you were still there or not. So we talked about bees earlier. We talked about protecting them and conserving them. And I'm more interested now, and maybe for Mzansi to get to know bees a bit more personally. So I'm aware of the fact that they actually communicate by dancing, which we spoke about earlier. But can you tell us more about these interesting creatures and maybe just a bit about how they live? I mean, dancing as a way of communication, I'm here for that.
So honeybees are incredibly sensitive and gentle little creatures. They communicate a lot using pheromones. They can also be quite fierce, and for us to be able to work with the bees, we work with smoke to dull their senses as far as their pheromonal communication. But they're also incredibly clever and have evolved to do a little dance to teach the rest of the colony where the food sources are. So if a bee finds a wonderful food source out in nature, they'll come back to the hive and they'll do a little dance to tell the other bees and to communicate with them which direction they must go in and where the flowers are for them to collect pollen and nectar.
Oh, wow. I am convinced now you might be a bee because you are always dancing when we give you food or anything. There we go. I think he's a bee.
All the food's over here.
But let's talk about the production of honey. I mean, besides being so delicious, what use can honey have? Because I know sometimes I use it for if I have a cut or if I want to make a face mask. But what are the other things we can use honey for?
So honey is a very versatile, amazing product. As you said, lovely in a cup of rooibos tea or on a piece of toast, bastings and cooking, salad dressings, but also has amazing healing properties for wounds. They've had very good success treating wounds that were resistant to antibiotics by using honey as a dressing. The New Zealand honey, Manuka honey, has been tested to have very high healing properties, and you might have seen it in the shops. It also fetches a high price tag. So, and I'm sure there's many other things that honey has been used for, but that's just a few of them.
Yeah, I mean, the uses that I've heard of are crazy, and the list goes on and on. Now, one crazy fact that I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I think I can ask you to find out, is that I believe bees at one point in time were actually carnivorous, so to speak, and they'd eat other insects, but subsequently have now become vegetarian.
Oh, wow.
If you could call it that. Is this true? Is there any truth in this? And what was the reason, if so, for the change in this diet?
Well, the bee family is a really large family, of which honeybees is only a small part of the big family, with thousands of different species of bees, solitary bees and social bees. Honeybees, as far as I know, evolved just like all of us and all creatures have evolved into nectar eaters. I don't know too much about them being carnivorous, but if you look at wasps and other insects, they have carnivorous diets, so it's quite possible at some stage that one of the families of honeybees, of bees, not necessarily honeybees, were carnivorous. Lovely pictures you've got of the bees walking into the hives with pollen on their legs.
Yeah.
And maybe just in closing, if anybody wanted to make their backyard bee-friendly, how would they go about doing so?
So the biggest challenge to honeybees, or one of the biggest challenges to honeybees, is sufficient food for them and nutrition for them. As humans become more and more, and we use up more and more bee habitat, we're losing food for the bees. So planting bee food is a massive need the world over, creating spaces for bees where the bees can live, where there's pollen and nectar for the bees. Visiting your local nursery, ask them for bee-friendly food, plants, trees, and that will help the bees a lot.
Well, Brendan Ashley Cooper, our head of the Western Cape bee industry, man, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you this morning, getting educated about bees and seeing the great work you're doing, as well as encouraging, I guess, the rest of the world to exactly do the same. So preserve, look after them, encourage more and more bees to grow, plant some food for them as well, and create a beautiful world where we can thrive in coexistence with these incredible creatures, I think, yeah.